Hey guys, welcome to the next lecture. We are going to talk about literary present tense. So, what is literary present tense? This is a term that most people have not heard of unless you've taken a significant amount of English courses. But essentially, literary present tense is when we use present tense verbs to discuss events in literature. And so, when I say literature, that's not just fiction. So literature is like any piece of writing. So that's fiction, nonfiction, poems, novels, short stories, articles, essays, anything like that. So using present tense verbs when we're discussing literature, okay? So one of the reasons that we use literary present tense is we treat literature as living documents. So not the same kind of living document as like the Constitution where it is amendable, but when we read literature, we read it as if what's happening in the book is happening right now, or we read the essay as if the author of the essay is writing it or saying those things right now as you read it. There's this sense of like immediacy that like what you're reading is so relevant and important that like it's happening right now, and so we refer to it in the present tense. This is commonly accepted in literary analysis and academic writing in general. I don't know too much about APA format, Chicago style format. I just know mostly about MLA format. So in any scenario when we're writing an MLA format, at least, you want to be referring or discussing literature using literary present tense. Here's an example. Brene Brown states that authenticity is a key factor to finding true belonging. So notice that the verb here is states, not stated as in the past. It states as if she is stating it right now, currently. That is what literary present tense looks like. It is not easy to write in literary present tense. It feels unnatural, or at least at first. So what tends to happen in student writing is I see students like flipping back and forth between present tense and past tense. This is something that you really want to be aware of and be careful of. Just know that you are probably going to make this mistake. So when you're proofreading, it's super important for you to look out for this. When you flip back and forth between tenses, it's very off-putting for your reader and often pretty distracting. I know when I'm reading an essay, like even if the essay is like so good and I'm like so immersed in what you're saying, when you flip back and forth between tenses, it pulls me out of what you're actually saying. It pulls me out of your argument. And when that happens, when the reader is no longer immersed in your writing because you've distracted them with this, they are less likely to be persuaded in what it is you are actually arguing. So again, this doesn't come naturally. It's something that you kind of have to intentionally learn. At this point, for me, it's kind of ingrained, just because I have written so many essays at this point. But for you, that probably isn't the case. So make sure this is on your radar. Again, when you go back and proofread your essay, this should be on your checklist of things to make sure that you are using correctly. Here's just a few examples of how to use literary present tense correctly. So if we look at the first one, Harvard professor Lennon Jones argues that climate change is rapidly changing the composition of Earth. So that is correct because argues is a present tense verb versus argued in the second example, argued is past tense, which is not literary present tense. Moving down to the bottom example, as Holden walks around NYC, his mental health continues to spiral. So Holden is our main character in The Catcher in the Rye that you'll get to know in a couple weeks. Notice how there are two verbs here, and they both are using literary present tense. As Holden walks rather than Holden walked, and his mental health continues rather than his mental health continued, okay? So hopefully looking at these examples, you can kind of understand what it is I'm trying to say. If you have questions on this is a great item to write down in your question log and talk about in class. I promise you, you are not the only one who will be confused about this, or you're not going to be the only one who struggles with it. Like I said, it does not come naturally for most people. So this is going to be something you're going to have to work at and make sure you're diligently paying attention to. But I promise you, as long as you put in the effort, you'll definitely get it.